15 landmarks stolen by the Chinese. Number 15. London's Tower Bridge replicated in Suzhou. In the Chinese city of Suzhou, a city known for its architecture and waterways, there are multiple replicated bridges, including a version of Paris's Pont Alexander III, as well as a version of the famed London Tower Bridge, which boasts 4 towers as opposed to the actual 2. Each tower stretches 131 feet into the air, and the project costs the country around $10 million to replicate. Number 14. Jackson Hole, Wyoming, replicated outside of Beijing. Right outside the city of Beijing, past the Great Wall of China, you can find the Chinese version of the Jackson Hole in Wyoming, United States. The replica of the town is complete with a church, Western-style storefronts, residential homes, and cowboys. The replica also has a section of Route 66 running through it, even though the actual Route 66 doesn't even run through Wyoming. The Jackson Hole homes have sold well, but not necessarily because of what they are. One home located in the Jackson Hole sold for almost $2 million because it's only an hour and a half away from the Chinese capital. Number 13. London's Thames Town replicated in Shanghai. In the suburbs of Shanghai, you can find a replica of Thames Town complete with a statue of the famous Harry Potter. In addition to the famed wizard statue, there's also a statue of Winston Churchill, the iconic red phone booths you see scattered around London, and the security guards are even dressed up in British uniforms. Even though the replica was meant to attract Chinese residents, not a lot of people wanted to live in the knockoff Thames. So now, since most of the residences remain empty, the majority of the real estate is used as backdrops for wedding photos. Number 12. Athens Parthenon replicated in the Lanzhou, Gansu province. The Athens Parthenon replica, alongside a replica of the Egyptian Sphinx, were the first 2 exhibits created for the Lanzhou Silk Road Cultural Relics project, which, when finished, will occupy a 1,650 square mile area. The project was created to bring back visitors and residents to Lanzhou, a once major trading hub on the Silk Road. The park was built to develop animation, gaming, film, and tourism industries in the city. Number 11. The Roman Colosseum replicated in Macau, China. If you are attending an outdoor concert venue in Macau, China, chances are you will be sitting in the replica of the famous Roman Colosseum, which was built to be an outdoor venue that sits 2,000 of China's residents. This attraction, among others, were created as part of Macau Fisherman's Wharf, which is a themed attraction that is split into 3 different and distinct areas. Number 10. The Sydney Opera House replicated in Beijing, China. In Beijing, China, you can walk across a replica of the Sydney Harbour Bridge straight to China's replica of one of Australia's most beloved pieces of architecture, the Sydney Opera House. While another replica of the famed Australian landmark was dismantled in late 2014, in northeast China's Liaoning province, this version in Beijing is still standing tall. Number 9. The Arc de Triomphe replicated in Jiangnan, China. The construction of the real Arc de Triomphe was ordered by Napoleon Bonaparte, the French emperor, in 1806. It was constructed in honor of the Grand Army, which was the name of the French army at the time. Napoleon wanted his army to return home through arcs of triumph. It is because of this that the arc was given the name Arc de Triomphe. The names of the 128 battles of the First French Republic and Napoleon's empire are written on the walls in the vault, along with the names of the generals who took part in them. Number 8. The Great Sphinx of Giza replicated in Chuzhou, China. After dismantling and removing the last replicated statue of the Great Sphinx, the Chinese are back at it again, trying to recreate another one. The first version, located in the Hebei province, provoked outrage from Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities, who in turn voiced their outrage to UNESCO. A Chinese official claims that this version will only be used as a temporary scene for shooting movies and TV shows. Number 7. Florentia Village replicated in Woking, China. In what used to be former cornfields, now sits a replica of Florentia Village, complete with Italian-style architecture and bridges. The village was the first authentic Italian luxury outlet in southern China. The idea was created and funded by the Silk Road Holdings company, who wanted to bring more tourism and profit back to the Silk Road. The Florentia Village houses over 60 top international retailers such as Armani, Calvin Klein, Coach, Nike, Tommy Hilfiger, and Versace. Number 6. The White House replicated in Beijing. Nestled between replicas of the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument sits the White House. Although you won't find any United States presidents residing within, you can see this historic landmark along with over 100 other famous landmarks in Beijing's World Park. Beijing's World Park is a theme park set on showing its residents the best parts of the world without them ever having to leave Beijing. The park opened in 1993 and is visited by 1.5 million people each year. Number 5. St. Peter's Basilica, replicated in Nikko, Japan. Although you can find the original in Vatican City in Italy, you can find a smaller scaled version along with 101 additional small scaled replicas of famous architectural and historical sites at the Tobu World Square theme park in Nikko, Japan. Each site has been replicated at a quarter scale, and the models are complete with 140,000 fake adoring spectators. Number 4. Egypt's Karnak Temple, replicated in Wuhan, China. The real Karnak Temple was the largest religious building ever made, and in its prime, it covered about 200 acres of land. The hypostyle hall is 54,000 square feet, features 134 columns, and is still the single largest room of any religious building in the world. The Egyptian people celebrated for 27 days in what is called the Opet Festival. The festival, which is held at Karnak and Luxor each year, celebrated the link between the pharaoh and the god Amun. Number 3. The Austrian town of Hallstatt, replicated in Guangdong, China. China spent over $940 million to replicate this UNESCO World Heritage listed alpine village in the southern Chinese province of Guangdong. The Austrian town is surrounded by Western-style housing, which was intended to act as a beacon for the rich from the neighboring Guangzhou and Shenzhen cities. In order to recreate an entire town, seemingly brick from brick, Chinese architects visited Hallstatt in secret, and they measured, photographed, and made blueprints of each and every section of the town. The entire project was kept secret until 2011 when a careless architect left a copycat blueprint for the clone city in a Hallstatt hotel. Number 2. The Lavoir, replicated in Chongqing. The Lavoir in Paris, France is the largest museum in the world and the central landmark of the city. The Lavoir was originally constructed as a fortress under Philip II. It wasn't until 1692, when King Louis XIV chose the Palace of Versailles to be his home, that the Lavoir started to become what it is today, a museum. The fake version, which was created by a Chinese-American architect, I.M. Pei, looks like a gloomy small-scaled model of the real deal. Number 1. The Eiffel Tower, replicated in Hangzhou. In the eastern Chinese city of Hangzhou, you can find a real estate development called Tiandusheng, which is modeled after the city of Paris, right down to the replica of the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower replica is scaled down to be a third of the size of the real one, but it is still big enough to cause discomfort with the city's citizens. Rachel Nee, a resident that moved into the development over 6 years ago, says, "I think it's a little strange. I don't like it here." She, like most other citizens, wished the fake landmark would be removed. Most of the apartments are empty, and a few shops and markets are open for business. The shrubbery is left unkept, and the fountains have run dry for years. Even though the city resembles a semi-ghost town, the residents continue to live here because it is among some of the cheapest living for people residing in Hangzhou.